Hello, I'm Samantha Stevens. I have been a career coach now for 7 years. Prior to that, I was a real estate executive for a number of years, running a large division with many employees. I've had hired and fired and interviewed lots of people. I'd seen the good, bad, and the ugly. And then after that, I started Austin Women Magazine here in Austin. And again, we interviewed, we ran a team, saw the good, the bad, and the ugly. So when my kids started aging up and needing to get jobs, I felt like I could help them. They were struggling, didn't know about resumes, etc. And I've been doing this for 7 years. So this particular video is going to be about how to handle your annual performance review like a boss. And let's get started. First off, everybody's reaction when your boss says, "Hey, time for your annual performance review," is that our sphincter tightens and we're like, "Good God, this is terrible. I'm scared," and our natural reaction is adrenaline, flight or fight. But actually, you can take charge of this. We're not trained to speak professionally about our successes, but what I tell people is to go ahead and put together your own review. If they haven't given you a form, then get a form. You can look up review forms. You can also just make an Excel spreadsheet or a PowerPoint. That will really be something. So, you might think that you aren't allowed to come into your review with some kind of format or something. That is absolutely not true. You will impress the boss. He will be, or she will be thrilled that you come in with something prepared. I say Excel spreadsheet is good. If you're comfortable with PowerPoint, that is a really great way to do it. Have visuals. People these days are point and click. So the way to broach this when you start the meeting is to walk in with your laptop or whatever you use to project and say, "I've gone ahead and put my thoughts into a format that I thought would be easy to follow," and go ahead and plug it in and put it up on the screen and say, "I hope that's okay." And that'll give a natural progression to the meeting and allow you to sort of keep going and go on. That's the way to put it together. What you need in that PowerPoint are tasks that you've had and accomplishments that you've made. And I like to have quantifiable metrics. You gather them all year. I know it's your review and here you are, but gather the metrics all year. Always in your professional life, keep a running document on your laptop of just stuff that you've done, accomplishments, new technology you've picked up, projects you've run, the results of those projects. Did it increase the company's revenue? I mean, that kind of stuff matters. Or even did the company's revenue just increase while you were there because your project was a success? Even that matters. That's something you can talk about. Let's see what else. Skills and technology. New skills, new technology you've picked up. Did you go out and learn a new program because you had to on some project? That's something to mention. I also like you to mention during the year, if you've had clients say what a great job you've done, save those emails, and or even better, when you get an email from a client saying, "Gosh, this was amazing, this really helped my business," forward that to your boss right then and there and say, "Wasn't that nice of the client? Look at this amazing email they sent. They didn't have to do that. Shucks." That's not being braggy. That's letting your boss know all along the year that you've done a great job. But anyway, if you haven't done that, use that now. If you're new to a job, I say use your original job description and start with that. Here's the stuff I was asked to do. And here's what I've done related to this, related to that. Here are the accomplishments. If you don't have a job description, or if you've been in the job for a long time, go out, and if you're not a good writer, go out on the internet, go to Indeed and LinkedIn and look up like jobs. Look up your same job description in new job postings and use their super great language. They'll have great language. "We need you to do this, we need you to do that," and it'll give you some English wording that you can grab and copy and paste, and you'll look like you've been a good writer, if that's a concern. I know some people are more math-brained. So that language is out there, freely available to copy. Then at the end of, do all that, it needs to be task accomplishment, in your PowerPoint. And at the end of the PowerPoint, I always say, be authentic about where you could improve. It doesn't have to be all braggy about how great you are. If you've had some stumbles, if you've had a fail or a mistake, put that in there and say, but this is what I've learned from it. I'll never do this or that again because I sure learned this and that. So I feel like I'm a better employee having gone through that experience, but be authentic about it. I also think it's a really good thing to ask for any new training that you want. If there's a class or a seminar or something you'd like to go to, ask for that stuff in your review. Say, here are some things I'd like to see me accomplish this year. I'd like to, get this new computer language, or I don't know, whatever it might be. Your industry. But that is always good too, to show some humility and show that you would like to improve. This is also a great time in the review to talk about where you'd like to see yourself in the next year. If you have been in the same job for a while and you're wanting to move to a new team, or you're wanting to move to a new role, this is a great time to talk about it. Say, I'd like to see myself this next year or two working toward XYZ team or XYZ role, and I'd like to understand what it would take, what kind of goals it would take for me to hit to be able to be considered for that sort of thing. I mean, this is the place. And ask for feedback as you're talking. This is not in the performance review. It's not all about you just talking on and on about you. You don't have to worry about that. Just put the slideshow up or put the Excel up and ask for feedback on each one as you talk about it. Say, now, how did you see this? And be open for your boss to now give their feedback. And remember, this is a huge thing that I think people don't understand. Bosses typically get to be bosses because they're good at a job. That's not because necessarily they're good with people. So give your boss some grace. The feedback is hard for them too. That keeps them up at night. They don't love reviews either, especially if there's something tough they've got to tell you. So be open to that. Understand that bosses may have untimely feedback. It may not have good delivery. The way they say it might be a little hurtful or feel untrue to you. But try and mine in there, dig for ponies. There's this funny little story about a little boy who was given, he was super optimistic, and his parents, tried to wisen him up and gave him instead of a gift at his birthday, they gave him a big bag of horse manure because he had wanted a pony, and he was excited about getting it. He says, I'm going to dig and see if there's a pony in it. So kind of like that same analogy, dig in the shit that you're given and see if there's anything that you can use to improve yourself, because it's still going to be good for your life to improve the quality of the work you're doing, no matter if they gave you a clunky piece of advice. Okay, so try to take off the feel things and just look for that good advice and see if there's something in there. I had one client come back to me after getting a bad review, and she was freaked out. She said, I'm going to get fired, I know it. And the review they gave her, she was a personal banker, and they said, you're just shy, you're not as friendly as the other bankers. And so, she and I went through it. I said, so what does that look like? Why do the other people look more friendly? And she said, well, they're always the first ones to say hello to people when they come in the door, and they smile a lot, and they offer them a water when they come in. And I said, so can you not do that? Why could you not do that? If you worked on it and practiced, and so we did, and it wasn't that hard. I mean, offering a water or a Topo Chico and smiling a little bit more. And I said, you got to picture those people coming in and feeling, they want to feel welcomed. Anyway, that doesn't matter. But the bottom line is she turned it around and she got promoted. So it doesn't mean, if you get a bad review, it doesn't mean they're like, I'm getting rid of you no matter what. It just means, hey, listen, we're trying to tell you something. And P.S., it's way more expensive for them to come and hire a new person and train somebody than to have you turn yourself around and do a great job. They'd much rather keep you, trust me. It's way less expensive corporate-wise and timing-wise and all that stuff. So listen to the feedback and turn it around. Anyway, and then at the very end of this, I think the most important thing we all care about is money. They're working for money, the boss. You're working for money. We want more money. So how do we ask for more money? And I think you put that in your presentation too. At the end, do the research first. What are you worth on the open market? Know what you're worth. Are you being paid that? That's something to know. And then also in your company, what is the standard allowed percentage increase? They just can't bump you 20% every year. It just isn't going to happen. Companies run on budgets. They budget. Typically, they budget, somewhere between 3 to 7 to 8%. 10% is unusual, even. So understand that. If you haven't been working a long time and you haven't had your own team, that's what they're looking at. They've got a certain amount they're given for their budget, and they've got to figure out who in their team gets the percentages, who gets a little more, who doesn't. So that's where you should say in your review, I see myself, as, I know that I'm being paid at a very reasonable rate, but I'd like to see an increase. I'd like to be incentivized. And I do feel I've earned it because of this, this, and this. And I'd like to request a blank percent increase, whatever that might be, 6%. I feel that's fair. And I'd love to hear what your feedback is on that. Boom. Just say it matter-of-factly. Let's talk about it like it's over there. It's not like, oh, it's my money, I'm scared. It's like, here's this job that has been performed. I believe it's worth X. And that makes it a lot more easy to talk about your value rather than it's all about me and I'm feeling cringy about asking for money like I'm begging. You're not begging. You're a professional. Here's what you're worth. Here's what I think the job is worth. I feel I've earned that. Matter-of-factly, okay? And the other vein, if you feel that you're not being compensated fairly, if you feel that you're a little below standard, the way to bring that up is also still to write that up and say, I've been feeling like my compensation package is a little light compared to industry standards, and there's some reasoning behind it. But here's the research I've done. I found that all the professionals at my level make this typically. And here are and quote this, cite the sources and say, and I think I got into this position because maybe I got promoted and there was a downturn that year or whatever, give the explanation like you understand it from the company's point of view. And then say, and I'd like to figure out if we could put together a plan to get me back up to something that's not as light. I feel like I'm at a fairly light place and I'd like to get it to where it's industry standard. That's the much better way than saying, Freddie makes more money than me. Not going to go over well. So that would be the way to start a conversation about compensation on the second vein. Okay, so in summary, let the internet be your friend. Do a lot of research. Widely Google great ways to do an annual review. How do I do my best review? Go to YouTube, see if anybody has any advice there. There are all kinds of people in this space right now giving you advice. There are all kinds of resources I'm sure you can come up with if you even spend half an hour just noodling around and looking for things to give you more information. But the number one thing is just be prepared and be confident and go in and tell them all about yourself. Good luck and good night.